All right, today we're in section 8.3, the slope of a line. Okay, so we're going to learn how to tell whether they're positive or negative, how to look at a line and tell what the slope is. So we're looking at slope from a few different perspectives today. The first thing you need to know, and you're going to do this on your regular paper, I just want you to draw 4 coordinate planes. Okay, so your x and your y-axis, just go ahead and draw them exactly how you see them on my screen. Okay, what is the slope of a line? All right, so go ahead and just draw, like I said, just on your regular paper. You're just going to draw these 4 grids. Okay? Okay, so in your first graph, I want you to draw a line that looks like this. Okay? That from left to right, it's going up. All right, we always read the slope of a line from left to right. So from left to right, it's trending upwards. On your second one, I want you to draw a line that from left to right is trending downwards. And then on your third graph, I want you to draw one that's straight across. And then on your last one, draw one that's straight up and down. All right, so when it trends upwards from left to right, like we see in our first graph, we're going to say that the slope is positive. Okay, and that makes sense, right? Because it's going up, it's going to be positive. So what do you think the second one's going to be? Negative. It's going to be negative. All right, so go ahead and label those graphs as positive and negative. So when I first look at a line, I can tell immediately if the slope is going to be positive or negative. All right, now when it's a horizontal line, I'm going to say that my slope is 0. When it's a horizontal line, I say that my slope is 0. When it's a vertical line, I say that my slope is undefined. It's impossible, actually, to have a function like that. So anyway, so my slope is undefined when it's a vertical line. All right, moving on. Okay, so now we're going to look at the slope formula. The slope formula is rise over run, okay? Now, let's think of this in terms of our xy axis, okay? Which axis do you think would be your rise? Think of it logically. Which one do you think is your rise? It's your y, right? Because your y is up and down. So that would be your rise, and which one do you think is your run? It's going to be your x, or your horizontal axis. So your rise, guys, is your change in your y between 2 points. Your run is your change in your x between 2 points. All right? You don't even necessarily have to draw the grid. Again, I just want you to write this part. Okay? Your formula for slope is rise over run. Your rise is your change in your y values between 2 points. Your run is your change in your x value between 2 points. All right, so we're still on our regular paper. I'm going to show you some lines. And we're going to try to figure out the slope. What's the formula? Rise over run. Rise is my x or y values. Y. Run is my x values. Okay? So here's my 2 points. Here's my first 2 points. Again, you're not doing anything on your graph paper yet, only working this on regular paper. So here's my first point, here's my second point, and then I draw my line straight through them. So here's the line. I'm looking at the line, and remember, I read the line from left to right. So the first point that I come to is going to be my starting point. And that point, what is my y value? What's my y value for my first point? It's at 3. What's my y value for my second point? 8. So what is the change in y from 3 to 8? It's going to be, I heard it, 5. So that's my rise. Because from between the 2 points, my y value changed by 5. Do you see that? It went from a 3 to an 8, so it changed by 5. Now what about my run? My x value on my first point is at a 3, and then on my second point it's at a 6. So what's my change in my run? 3. So it's 5 over 3, and that's my slope. Okay? Rise over run. Let's do another one. All right, what if you had point here and a point here? Okay, and here's your line. All right, so if I'm reading it which way? From left to right, which point do I start at? The bottom one, right? Because that one comes first. So what's my y value for this point?
-5.
My y value. -7. What's my y value for this one? -3. All right, so I'm going up, so it's positive, and I went from a -7 to a -3, so what's my rise? How many did I go up? 4. So my rise is 4. And how many did I go over from my first point to my second point? I went from a -7 to a -5. So how many did I go over? 2. 4 over 2. Now this one, can I reduce it? 4 over 2? Can I simplify it to 2? So this one, either one of these would be the correct answer, 4 over 2 or just 2. Now, don't change an improper fraction to a mixed number, but here it's a whole number, so we could simplify it. Now, what about this one? What if I had a point here and a point here, and my line goes all the way through? I'm going to move. Okay, so now, what's my rise? What do I start at? I start at a 5, and then I go all the way down to a -3. So from +5 to -3, what is my change in my y? It is 8, but which way did I go? I went down, so it's a -8. Okay, and look at the way the slope is going. It's going down to the right, so I know that my rise is -8. If my slope is negative, it's always going to be my rise. My run is never negative. All right, so now, what's my x value? My x value starts at a -4, and it goes to a +3. So from -4 to +3, what's my change in my run? Let me ask you this. How do you get from -4 to 0? 4. How do you get from 0 to 3? 3. So what's 4 plus 3? 7. Okay, -8 over 7. And you leave it like that. That's your slope. Okay, so rise over run. Your change in your y over your change in your x. All right, I want you to try to do one now on your regular papers. I just want you to try to write the correct slope on your paper. All right, so if I gave you a point here and a point here, what is the slope? Is my rise positive or negative? Positive. It's positive, so I know this is a positive slope. And how many do I go up by between my 2 points?
4.
I went from a 3 to a 7, so I went up 4. And how many did I run? 6. Okay, could I reduce that? 2/3. Okay, so technically 2/3 is the answer that I'm looking for. Again, if the fraction can be reduced or simplified, do that, but don't change it to a mixed number. All right, so now let's do another one. What if I gave you a point here and a point here and draw a line? Okay, what is the slope? Write it on your... All right, so we start at the top point because, again, we read it left to right. So what's my y value in the first point? It's a 8. What's my y value on the second point? 2. So what's my change in my rise? -6. -6 because it's going down. Okay, so my rise is -6. And my run, I go from a -8 to a -5. So how many did I go over? 3. -6 over 3 can be reduced to -2. -2. Okay, see it now? Okay, remember guys, if it's going down, we've got to have that negative. All right, let's do one more. All right, this is definitely the most important part of the lesson. Here's your point. Here's your point. That's a bad line. And here's your line. Okay? All right, tell me the slope. Tell me the slope. All right, so what is your rise? You go from a what? A y value of what? -3 all the way up to a +6. So what is my change? I went up by 9. I went up by 9. 3 to 0, that's 3. And then another 6, that's going to be 9. So I went up by 9. And how many did I go over? I went over by 6. 6. Can 9 over 6 be reduced? Yes, it can be reduced to 3 over 2. All right? Now, do not change it to a mixed number. It cannot be 1.5. If you say 1.5, it's wrong. Get no credit. Okay? All right, now you're going to have some on your homework that look like this. Okay? It gives you a chart, and it's going to ask you to make some interpretations of the data. Okay, so here's what the columns stand for. The vertical column is going to be cents, pennies. Okay, cents or cost. Okay, either way. The bottom column is your gallons. Okay, yes, these are gas prices. Now, these are gas prices from like 50 years ago, okay? This is definitely not our gas prices now, but we're just going to go with it. So here's what we do. Here's our first question. How much does it cost for Florida? Okay, so we're looking at Florida's. What is the gasoline tax rate in cents per gallon? So we're going to kind of tie in our unit rate, what we learned last week. We're going to tie that into what we're doing here. So they want to know, how much does it cost per gallon? Well, here's my 1 gallon. So I look where my Florida line, okay, intersects the 1 gallon point. And how many cents would that be?
6.
How much is it? It's 24 cents. Do you see that? 24 cents per gallon. Okay, now how much is Georgia's gasoline tax rate in cents per gallon? How much is Georgia's? How much is it?
I would say 12.
Okay, if you're 1 or 2 off, that's fine. But for Georgia, we're going to say probably about 11 or 12 cents per gallon. Again, these are prices from like the 60s. I wish gas was this cheap, okay? Okay, so Georgia is 12 cents a gallon. Florida is 24 cents a gallon. So which one's cheaper? Georgia, okay? So basically, on your worksheet tonight, you're just going to have different numbers, but this is basically what it's going to look like. We're just interpreting a graph. All right, so now let's back up, okay? Now, let me just back this up. We're just going to do some different numbers. Now I'm going to give you 2 coordinates, okay? Your first coordinate is going to be 2, 5. Your second coordinate is going to be -3, 2. I want you to plot these points, so now we're switching over to graph paper. Plot these points and draw a line through the points, and then we're going to find the slope. Okay, so we go over 2, up 5. Whoops. Right here. Did you plot a point there?
Yes.
Then we go left 3, up 2. Did you plot a point there?
Yes.
Okay, draw a line through the points. And now, okay, what's our slope? Now, first of all, before we even write anything, is our slope positive or negative? Positive. It is positive. And how many does it rise by?
3.
It rises by 3. And how many does it run by? By 5. Very good. 3 over 5. How many got a slope of 3/5? Okay, very good. Very good. All right, here's one more. What if you had -4, and 5, -5? Plot those points and tell me what the slope is. Draw the line through the points, and then what is the slope?
On the same graph.
Yes, on the same graph. All right, so we go -4 down 4, and we go over 5 down 5, and we draw our line. It's a pretty flat line, not too big of a slope. All right, so what is our rise? It is negative. Negative what? -1. I went down. Look, I went from a -4 down to a -5. I went down 1. Okay, so my rise is -1. Remember, my rise will be negative, never my run, if anything's negative. And then, what is my run? It is 9. I went from a -4 to a +5. How many got -1/9? -1/9. Good. All right, if you understand that, that's everything you need to know for 8.3.